This may be the scariest story ever that I've ever heard. A guy writes his experience and he says that his wife started peeking at him. At first, it was pranks. So he'd be like in the kitchen cooking his dinner and he'd notice or he'd feel like someone was watching him and he'd turn around and his wife was just... He said that it always used to make him jump, make him scared. She was hiding behind walls, under tables, and she'd never like say anything. When she was caught, she'd just run away. She started doing it in really obscure places, like she'd get in an ottoman and just have her eyes poking out. It really started to freak him out and scare him, so he used to shout at her. And then he said that it kind of stopped for a bit. And while they were having dinner one night, he said, "Oh, you're not peeking at me anymore." And she said, "Maybe I'm just getting better at it and you're not noticing me." So then it starts getting creepy again and he's noticing her a bit more. It's scaring him even more that she's not reacting to it. She's not laughing. She's not going, "Hey, I got you." She just runs away, walks away and never acknowledges it. And there's one time where he's in the bathroom and he's hearing like this weird sound. And he gets in the shower, he's locked the bathroom door. And when he turns after being in the shower for God knows how many minutes, she's peeking around the curtain at him and her hair and her face is soaking wet and it really scares him. So he shouts at her saying like, "This needs to stop." And she goes and he gets out the shower and he locks the bathroom door because he's too scared to be around his wife. And he says he's in this room for 45, 50 minutes and he starts hearing this like really like heavy breathing, but like excited breathing. And he thinks that she's next to the door, but he's too scared to look underneath the door in case she's under there staring. And then he says that he's working up the courage to unlock the door when he notices the cupboard in the bathroom door is slightly ajar and she's just been in that cupboard. I feel sick saying this. She's just standing in this cupboard, just staring at him for 45, 50 minutes. And she looks excited that he's caught her out. So he unlocks the door, he runs to the bedroom, grabs the bag and gets in his car and drives away because he's like, "I don't want to live like this. It's gone further than a prank. She's scaring me." He goes to his brother's house and he tries to explain like what's going on. And his brother's like, "Yeah, okay then." And his brother's wife's like, "I think she's just playing a prank." And he's like, "No, it's gone beyond a prank. It's terrifying. It's like she's haunting me. She's a creep." And then his wife starts texting him saying like, where have you gone? Why are you doing this? But never apologising, never saying sorry. And he just replies like, "You know what you're doing. Until you admit to what you're doing and it stops, I'm not coming home." He decides to stay the night at his brother's house. And when they're all getting ready for bed, they're in the lounge. She's there at the window and there's like saliva marks on the window and she's just staring at them and they all get creeped out, they all scream and then she's gone. And he's like, "Look, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with her." So he calls her mum and he says, "Look, what's going on?" And this mum just declines even talking about it. She's like, "I don't have time for this, bye." She obviously knows something's going on. He stays at his brother's house for a while. I don't know how long, but he says he's there for a while and he finally needs to get more clothes and he works up the courage to go to the house. So when they get to the house, they go open the doors and it's all dark. She's shut all the curtains. It's in the middle of the daytime, but it's dark. So the brother goes around and he's opening some curtains and they can see that the place is just trashed. And all of the like family photos have just been shattered. She's just trashed the place. And he goes upstairs to the bedroom to get his clothes. And as he's going up the stairs, he can smell rot and decay. I'd turn around. I'm like, I'm not dealing with that. I'd call the police. No. Go into the bedroom and that's where like a load of the mess is. There's photos strewn over the place, broken picture frames, just shit everywhere. And he's getting his clothes and as he lifts up a pile of his clothes, he notices an eyeball. But he says it's a small eyeball, like an animal's. And in the cupboard, there's just eyes of different shapes and sizes that are clearly just from murdered animals. And he shouts and freaks out. And his brother's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Something isn't right here." And that's when he starts hearing like that excited, raspy breathing. And he looks under the bed and she's there just staring at him excited that she's being caught. And he says that he was just petrified. He just stood there and he said to his brother, like, go and get help, go and get help. And his brother's like coming to the bedroom. He's like, don't come in here, go and get help. Her hands are covered in blood because she's like holding this glass and it's just been cut in her hands. And it gets down to a level and he's like, look, babe, you need help. I want to help you. After all, it's his wife, a creepy motherfucker, but it's his wife. And she reaches her hand out to him and he goes to grab it and then she stabs him with a bit of glass. And then he's like, what the fuck, bitch? And then he's just like, what? And he says that at that moment he knew that that wasn't his wife anymore, and they just ran down those stairs. He said that he felt like she was running after them, but they didn't want to turn around, and they got in the car and they drove away. He was too scared to go to the brother's house, and so was the brother, because she'd already been to this house. And he says he ended it, and we haven't had an update from him yet, but he ended it saying that he got himself in a hotel room, and he says that he keeps on feeling like someone's watching him. Imagine being haunted by your wife, by something living. That's disgusting.
Another scary story, and this one comes from the UAE. So when I was around 8 years old, my family and I, my family with 3 brothers and a sister, lived in a house in the UAE. We had just gotten a new nanny and she was from Indonesia. At first, everything seemed calm, but after 3 weeks that she had been living with us, she started to act weird. She became super furious at me for no reason all the time and would lie to my mom, complaining that I'd swear at her and throw things at her. I didn't even know any swear words, so how could I swear at her? And since I was young, my mom always took her side and nobody ever believed me. Aww. You know what? My mom used to do that too. She used to take everybody's side. If anyone complained about me, she would take everybody's side, believe the whole entire world except for me. And that creates a lot of self-doubt for people. It did for me. She realizes her mistake now as an older adult. One day out of nowhere, I began seeing a really tall woman dressed in all black. That lasted for at least 2 weeks. I remember clearly, one day we were sitting there, my family was having lunch in the kitchen, and I was in the living room, and I all of a sudden became paralyzed. I thought I was just dreaming because the room looked like it had turned into hell. The walls were burnt and you could hear screams. And at the same time, that same woman appeared to me when I was paralyzed and told me to come to her. And about 5 seconds after I saw her, I passed out. I fainted. But my family didn't think much of it. Oh my God, you were only 8 and they weren't concerned? Like, that's too little to just faint out of nowhere. Anyways, 4 months later, my brother and I were on our way home in my mom's car from school. My mom gets a call from my sister saying she has caught the maid trying to run away from home. So my mom replied saying, we're at the roundabout, we're about to reach home. And when we reached home, my older brother and I were told to go into different rooms while my parents and eldest siblings talked to the maid. My dad searched the maid's bag that she was running away with and found clothes, but they were not her clothes. It was my family's clothes inside the bag. And then there was a little jar, a container filled to the brim with blood that had writing on a small piece of paper that you see in black magic stuff. It turned out that the woman I've been seeing was a jinn that the nanny had sent to haunt me. Oh my God. Then my parents sent the maid back to Indonesia, but a few weeks after the incident, my sister immediately began acting weird around her family. She had developed major dark under eyes and she was pale. One day, she became a whole different person. She began sitting in my room playing the Quran and screaming loudly and reading the Quran loudly, like possessed loudly. She'd been saying verses from the Quran that she had never ever memorized and that she didn't know. But this would go on for 2 long days until my mom let her stay in her room while I went back to sleeping in my own room. One night, my mom told me she felt unsafe being alone with my sister because of how she was feeling. So I assured her that I would just sleep in her bed on the mattress on the floor. At exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, my sister woke up, grabbed me, and tossed me out of her room and locked the door. I was so confused, but I just went back to my room and went into bed, about to doze off, until I heard a scream, and it was my mom's scream. It sounded like she was in pain. I ran around screaming and banging the doors to all my siblings' rooms for help. And when they came out, they tried to help me break my mom's door, but we were unsuccessful. My dad told my mom to open the door, and as my mom tried and finally opened the door, we could see blood everywhere coming from my mom. And in the corner of the room, my sister was crouched in the corner, giggling with an evil laugh. My family knew they had had enough and took her to a sheikh, which is like a Muslim priest. And he said that there was nothing wrong with her. Keep in mind, he was a young sheikh, very inexperienced. So we ended up taking her to the hospital where they diagnosed her with bipolar disorder. And when she came back from the hospital, the only person she wanted to be around was me. After a few years, my sister slowly began getting better, but something was still off. Every time she would call me into her room, or when I needed to get something from her room, it always reeked of metallic, bloody smell. I didn't think much of it and let it pass. A few years later, my mom was on the phone with her friend about the sheikh that she saw in Egypt that helped my mom's friend's daughter since she was possessed. My mom knew she had to take my sister to this sheikh. My mom gave us no intel of what happened in Egypt, but she took my sister there. And when they got home from their trip, I asked my mom everything, and what my mom said made my blood run cold. She said that my sister has had a curse, black magic, put on her and was possessed since the time that we had that nanny from Indonesia. And if you remember in the beginning, the first part when I was paralyzed in the dark, that woman figure that kept calling my name and telling me to come to her. And since I didn't come to her, this whole time my sister had gotten possessed by that jinn and wanted to be in her different dimension and get into the dimension of this family and become a part of this family. So she had possessed the sister. Oh my God. So for like 2 years, the sister was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was actually possessed. This is why you have to believe what your children say. They're not always lying to you. They are telling the truth too. So if they feel something's off, maybe go on that hunch and like see what's up and do some more digging and research. It's your children, right? You're going to be attentive and like listen to their concerns, because that really sucked for her that she had to go through that for 2 years. Anyways, send me more, guys. These are so good.
This girl sent me a story telling me that she thought she was dealing with a mimic in her house until she saw it, and what she saw was far worse. So we're gonna call this girl Trisha. So Trisha lives in a small village in Germany, and she's never really had anything scary happen to her in her life until this happened. One night she's sleeping in her room, and her room is next to her parents' room, and it's very important to note that her parents, the walls are very thin. She can hear everything in her parents' room. She's just laying in bed, like trying to fall asleep, when suddenly she starts hearing these creaks in the hallway, and she's thinking to herself, like, that's kind of weird, but it's an old house, like it's probably just the house making house noises. So just to kind of give you a layout of her room, she has her bed right here, and then to the left of her bed is her door. Across from her bed is her TV, and right next to her door is a closet with a mirror, and that's important to note too. She's just laying there listening to these creaks when she decides that she's going to turn around and she's going to try to fall back asleep. Well, as she turns around and she's trying to fall back asleep, she hears something go, Trisha, Trisha, in her mom's voice. So at first she thinks that it's her mom. So she's kind of like looking around like, what the hell? And then she realizes something. She can hear her mom breathing in the other room. She's asleep. So she turns around slowly and she looks at her door and she sees something peeking into the room just long enough for her to see it like move away from the door. She said after this that she could not sleep for about 2 hours, but after 2 hours she does eventually fall asleep. Well, the next day she gets up and she does her normal stuff that she does during the day, and around 9 p.m. comes around and she's just laying in her bed scrolling on her phone, when suddenly she sees something out of the corner of her eye. It's coming from her door again. So she quickly looks over, but nothing is there. So she decides that she's just gonna put her phone away. She thinks that her mind is playing tricks on her at this point. She's like, this was really terrifying, the experience that I had the night before. I probably just have anxiety, so I'm just gonna go to sleep. So she puts her phone down and she goes to fall asleep when she hears Trisha, and this time it sounds angry. She is so scared at this point that she said the only thing that she could, like, her way of coping with this was just to pretend to be asleep until she actually fell asleep. After she falls asleep, she wakes up in the middle of the night and she opens her eyes and it's 3:13 a.m. and she moves her eyes and she sees something peeking from behind her TV. Now, mind you, the TV is in front of her door that leads to her backyard. So she just quickly shuts her eyes again because this is her way of coping with things, right? And she does not want to see this thing again. So she just closes her eyes again as tight as she can until she again falls asleep. Now, nothing happens again that night, and nothing happens happens really until about 2 months later. Now, during this 2 months, she did hear and see things. Like, she would see things out of the corner of her eye. She would see things peeking behind the door and behind her TV, the same as before. And she would hear her name being called, but she learned to kind of ignore it at this point. That was until the 2 months passed and something happened to her that was so terrifying. She said it was the scariest thing that has ever happened to her in her entire life, and that it was so terrifying that she still thinks about it to this day, almost every single day. So one night she goes to bed like normal. She wakes up in the middle of the night. It's 3:54 a.m. And for some reason, she feels this urge to sit up. So she sits up and she's just sitting there for a second. And she doesn't really know why she's doing this, but she gets this urge again to look in her mirror. And what she sees was horrifying. Sitting in front of her bed, leaning against it with its back against her bed, she can see in the mirror this tall, dark figure with super long, skinny legs and super long fingers and fingernails. So she is looking at this thing horrified when suddenly it slowly turns its gaze and looks directly into her eyes. Now, she cannot see this face. She can't see anything about its face. She can only see these big, bright white eyes. It then turns around with its body and continues to look at her with its head. So its body is turned, but its head is still looking at her like this. It then jumps on all fours and it just runs underneath her bed while it's still looking at her. She said it then just disappeared. She said that this scared her so badly that the only way that she could cope, like her trauma response, was to literally lay back down and go to sleep. Could not be me. I do not know how you people do this. Now, months pass after this, right? And she doesn't tell anybody about any of this. No one knows about her name being called, about her seeing things peeking around corners and around her TV, because she doesn't think that anyone's going to believe her. But eventually this is eating at her so much that she needs to tell her mom. So she's telling her mom one day, and she starts the story, and she's looking at her mom as she's telling the story, and her mom just looks at her with this horrified look on her face. And she says, "I've been smelling things. I've been smelling things every day when no one is home. Things like an old man's cologne." And the last thing that Trisha said to me was, "You know what it means when you smell cologne or perfume when no one's home." Which, by the way, I don't know. So please tell me. The only thing that I would know is that would indicate it being a spirit. If there's another meaning, can someone please drop it in the comments? Because that's the only thing I can think of. Sorry if this story seemed rushed. I didn't mean for it to feel that way. I just told this story already, and then I accidentally posted it to my story, and it was deleted. And it is literally 5 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't gone to bed. I haven't gone to bed yet. It's these type of stories that scare me the most. And it has to deal with skinny, tall figures, and especially mirrors. Something about those two things really freaked me out so much. And the peeking around the corner, almost like it was kind of like taunting her in a way, building up to when it was going to reveal itself and terrify the shit out of her. But tell me what you guys think about this story. I literally had chills the whole time I was telling it. It's hard to scare me. Drop any thoughts, opinions, suggestions that you have in the comments below, but as always, please be respectful. I'm now going to do my favorite part, which is the shout outs. Cult. I hope I pronounced that right. Ashley is your nickname. Thank you so much for what you said. You said that you have a pretty stressful life and that your way of winding down is to watch my stories. And I can so relate to that. I also have a stressful life. As you guys know, I work more than I should. And so I cannot wait to go climb in my bed right now and listen to scary stories until I fall asleep. So I love that I can be that for somebody else. It makes me so excited that I am someone else's comfort spooky storyteller. And I feel so blessed to be that. So thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of my community. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for telling me that. And I hope you know how much I appreciate you. Really, I love you, girl. Michaela B, I feel like I remember giving you a shout out before, but I don't have you on the list of like my shout outs that have already been told. So I'm going to give you one right now. You said that TT has been unfollowing and unliking my video. It's okay, girl. I know that you watch my videos. You're good. I wouldn't think that you would do that. I really appreciate you telling me that though. Thank you so much. You said that you were my #1 fan, and that's the nicest thing to hear. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of my community and for watching and supporting me, and even noticing that you were unfollowing me. That's awesome in itself, because that means that you do watch me a lot. So I appreciate you so much. I hope you know that, and I love you, girl. And with that being said, my name is Kaisa, and I tell your paranormal experiences on here or ones that you recommend to me every single night. So if you're into that, hit that follow button. I can't talk, I'm so tired. And with that, wait, what was the next thing I always do? Oh, yeah. And with that being said, I forgot. And I just need you to do 3 things for me. And what are those? Keep sending me your scary stories. Have a safe night. And what's the third one? Say it with me. Have a spooky night. Love you guys so much, my spooky babies. I'll see you in the next one. Spooky kisses and haunted hugs. This spooky story submission is actually so terrifying that it led to the person who was telling me the story to end up in the hospital because of this. So for the story, we're going to call her Danielle, and I'm going to tag her below. We're calling her Danielle because that's what her childhood friends and her family used to call her. So until Danielle was about 14 or 15 years old, she lived on 78 acres of land. She said that in that 78 acres of land, only about 3 other people lived on that land. So it was a pretty secluded area, and Danielle really liked to play outside. That was her favorite thing to do. Loved watching the deers, the rabbits, but her favorite was climbing trees. Something that really bothered her though is that her mother would never let her play outside after dark, and we're talking like not even after the sunset, as the sun started setting. She didn't like this, but she obviously obeyed it because it was her mother, and so she had to. Until one day, her mother decides that she is going to go out to a friend's house, and Danielle doesn't want to go with her. But if Danielle doesn't go with her, it means that she's going to be left alone. Her and her mother decide that this is okay and that Danielle is old enough to handle this, so she stays home alone, and her mom leaves at about 3 p.m. Danielle decides that she's going to go outside and she's going to play in the woods. She said that she was outside climbing trees when she felt this overwhelming feeling of being watched. It was overwhelming, and it felt like it was coming from above her. But she keeps looking up, and she's not seeing anything, so she's thinking that maybe her mind's just playing tricks on her, and she kind of shrugs it off. At some point, it starts to get dark, and she knows that she's supposed to go home, but she doesn't want to go home, and she's home alone, so she can do what she wants. So she decides that she's going to stay outside. At around 7:30 p.m., when the sun had already set, she starts hearing a noise, and it's her mother calling her name. She's calling for her to come home. So Danielle is like, oh crap, I gotta get home. So she starts walking home, but she still has this overwhelming feeling of being watched. When all of a sudden, she starts hearing twigs and leaves snapping behind her. So she looks behind her, but she doesn't see anything. She finally gets home, and she realizes that her mom is not home. So while she's outside, she calls her mom, and she's like, Mom, were you home? Like, I just heard you calling my name. And her mom was like, I have not been home this entire time. I'm still at my friend's house. She said this really freaked her out, and she decided to turn around and look in the woods, and she looked over, and she sees a dark figure standing outside in the woods. This freaks her out, so she runs inside, she slams the door, and she deadbolts it shut. She then goes over to the window, and she looks outside of her blinds to see if it's still there, and of course it is not there. She again decides that she's going to shrug this off. Maybe her eyes are just playing tricks on her, and she decides to make dinner. This feeling of being watched, this overwhelming feeling, follows her until the morning. And she said that she didn't feel like she was being watched by one thing, she felt like she was being watched by like several things. She decides to go to her camera because they have cameras in the house, and there's a new video popped up, and I'm assuming that they were motion censored. She didn't say in the email, but she did say that there was a new video, so she looks at it and she doesn't see anything, but she hears this tapping sound on their front door. It's important to note right now that their front door is a big metal door that her mom had put in when they very first moved in. Nothing is on the camera, she cannot see anything, so she decides that she's going to go outside and she's going to look at the door. Outside on the door, there are huge claw marks on this metal big door. She said that she then realized that this could not have been an animal, because if it was an animal, number one, why is it trying to get into her house? And number two, how could it make these claw marks on this big metal door her mom had installed? So this really freaked her out, so I think her way of just coping with things was just shrugging it off. So she does just that, and she goes out in the woods again, and around 7:50 p.m. she's playing in a tree, climbing it again, and she gets that overwhelming feeling again. This feeling again is feeling like it's coming from above. So she decides to look above her again, and what she saw was terrifying. She said that she looked up, and when she looked up, she saw the most demonic figure she had ever seen in her life looking at her. Not only was it looking at her, but it was calling her name, her real name, not Danielle, her real name. But not only was it calling her name, it was in her mother's voice again. Danielle is absolutely terrified at this, and she starts bolting home, and the entire time she's running home, she can hear this thing running after her. She calls her mother on her way home, and she was absolutely bawling her eyes out. Her mom gets home, and she assures her that it's nothing, and that everything is going to be okay, and that it's not a big deal, and that she was probably just seeing things. Danielle did say that this experience was so distraught to her and scared her so badly that she actually ended up being hospitalized for 2 or 3 months because of it. She said she couldn't eat, sleep, drink, nothing. The crazy thing about this is that this is not even the only thing that happened happened to Danielle, something else happened to her that even traumatized her further. This is getting really long, so I'm gonna have to make a part 2 on it. If you guys want to hear that second part, that partly also contributed to her being in the hospital, then drop it in the comments and I will make a part 2 and tell you guys that story. That story is even scarier. So what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think this was? Like, this terrified her so much that she's still in therapy to this day. And the second thing that happened to her definitely didn't help at all. So drop in the comments for part 2. Also, if you guys have anything to say to her or anything to like help her feel better, please also drop that in the comments. She could use all the love and support that she could get right now. She is going to see it. I am going to tag her. Thank you so much for your submission, Danielle. And thank you for letting me tag you. You are the first person that has let me tag you, so I appreciate that. And if you guys want to send me your true scary stories, then there's an email in my bio. Just go ahead and email me there and I will come on here and I will tell your story. You do not have to be tagged if you do not want to. My name is Kaisa. I tell you scary stories that are true every single night. So if you like that, then hit that follow button, engage from the bottom up, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much and have a spooky night.
Hi, I grew up in a haunted house, so I thought it was time for me to finally share some of the experiences I've had and just like what it was like growing up in a haunted house. Obviously, if you don't believe in the paranormal, then don't watch this video because what I experienced was very real and it affected me and my family very deeply. To begin, I truly believe that I brought something into my home because of the Ouija board, and I want to create this video so I can spread knowledge that this is not a game. The Ouija board is very real, and it caused a lot of issues for me and my family when I played it. And now I started playing it when I was in the 3rd grade. It was introduced as a game. It was sold at Target. I would play it at my friend's house. My mom never allowed it in the house, but because we weren't supposed to do it, we would do it at other friends' houses. And I played this all throughout my childhood, talked to a lot of entities, at least from what we thought. And it all kind of flipped a switch when I was in middle school. So this particular time we played was during a time when a family friend of ours had committed, he had passed away. And so we wanted to speak to him, and we thought we were speaking to him. We would ask it questions. He would, from what we thought it was him when we were talking to him. Whoever was on the other side of the board knew every single personal thing that nobody else would know. And to give you context, when we were playing, it was my friends and we had our hands on the board, and then my friend's aunt, who was the adult supervising, she would ask the board the questions, and it would be answers that none of us knew. Only she would know because she was very close to this person. And it felt like we were speaking to him. So we continued on, and then we were like, okay, we're gonna go to dinner. We'll come back and talk later. So we closed out the board, went out to dinner, came back, and we opened the board up to speak again. And when we opened the board back up, the room felt completely different. The energy was different. When you would ask it questions, the way it moved was different. Like, overall, I think everybody kind of felt like we were no longer talking to this family friend that we thought we were talking to. And so, but we continued to ask it the similar questions to kind of test whatever we were talking to. And it would come up with some very scary answers. I can't remember specifically because like I'm 27 now. I was like 12 when this happened. I just can't remember exactly what was said, but I just remember the answers we were getting was very dark. And I distinctively remember it had said this one thing that really scared us, and we were like, we're closing the board out, goodbye, do not want to talk to you again. And after this happened, that's when everything kind of unfolded. I can't remember if it was the same night or like a few days later, but I had come home late night to my home, and I was on the phone with my friend at night, and it was probably like 3 a.m, and I was in my room, and I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, my bed was pulled into the middle of the room. To give you context, my bed was one of those beds that was like kind of high up off the ground, and it had 6 drawers to fill clothes. So it was very heavy, real wood bed. And then there was a bunch of clothes in there, and I had carpet at the time. And to pull this bed, like, it was hundreds of pounds, this bed. So there was no way, nobody was in the room, nobody was awake. Everybody was asleep in my home. And immediately when I walked in and saw my bed in the middle of the room, my gut knew that something was wrong, and this was like a paranormal thing. The energy had shifted in my room. It was like almost like colder temperature wise. I know a lot of people say that, but it really was like the temperature was different in my room. It felt icky. I hung up with my friend. I immediately went into my parents' room, and I was terrified. I was absolutely dumbfounded, could not explain it. And my parents came in my room, and they couldn't explain it. I remember my dad was trying to push my bed back, and he was like, he's very skeptical. He never believed in ghosts. I don't think he's a very logical man. And so he was trying to come up with all these reasons to why this could have happened and asking me questions. And I was like, I swear I did not move this bed. And my mom just instinctively was like, let's pray. And we prayed. And I remember I ended up sleeping in my parents' bedroom that night. But after that night, a lot of things started happening in my house. And it was gradual, like years would go on and certain things would happen year after year. And it wasn't until I moved out of the house and I was like, I definitely brought something into this home, and it was really hard to get rid of. This video is getting really long, so I'll probably break this up into multiple parts, but if you want to hear more stories, let me know. I really wanted to create this video as a cautionary tale against the Ouija board, to please be careful and to just watch out, because you really don't know what you're talking to. Part 2 of living in a haunted house. It's really hard to start somewhere because there was a lot of things that happened, and it wasn't until you looked back that you kind of added it all up. But in general, I remember just feeling this overall presence in my room a lot of the time, where it just felt like there was this, I don't know why I want to say man, but it felt like a male energy, I guess, that would stand over my bed. And I remember feeling something there, but I would be too scared to open my eyes. And then when I would finally open my eyes, nothing would be there. I think throughout middle school and high school, there would just be small things that happened, but I remember specifically once I started getting fascinated by tarot cards, things really picked up. And I don't know if this was a coincidence or there's something with the tarot cards. We'll leave it there. One night specifically, I want to say it was probably 12 a.m. I had just gotten off a night shift at work, took a shower, was eating a late dinner after work, and I remember I was watching Grey's Anatomy on my laptop, and I'm sitting at my table, and behind me, to give you context, I was sitting here. Probably here, there's a countertop, all right? And on this countertop, there was those hydro flasks, like a white hydro flask, and I'm watching, and out of the I feel this like that, and I look, and the fucking water bottle is flying towards my head, past my head, and hits the cabinets in front of me. Immediately, I knew there was something very wrong. And we don't have AC in our house, so there was no draft, no wind, no doors open. I was inside in my kitchen. There's nothing that could have, I was the only one up. Everybody was asleep. There was nothing that could have pushed that off and make it fly that far. So I, as one does, starts crying. And my dad comes running out because he's getting ready to beat my ass because I'm making so much noise at midnight. And when he sees my face, I could tell he was angry, and he sees how ghost white I am, and obviously I had it written on my face, and he was like, what happened? And I told him I was literally bawling, crying, because it just it scared me, honestly. I was in my early 20s at this time, to give context. Yeah, that really shook me. And I think there was a long period of time where my dad didn't really, like, he heard us when we had these kind of stories, but he didn't think necessarily that it was a ghost. I don't know if he really believed us. And I remember this was like a point where he was like, okay, there's something here. So yeah, that was the most, like, quote unquote violent experience I had. Other than that, up until that point, it didn't really bother me because I got so used to this weird vibe, weird feelings in my house, that it just didn't bother me until that happened. And I remember being like really unsettled. I was
Hey TikTok, I am coming to you guys with a story time because I've actually had a dream about this last night, and it was very clear and very vivid. It kind of played like a movie, and this comes from a story that my mother told me happened to her when she was younger. It's more about my grandfather than anything. And my grandfather always had like a really rebellious spirit. Like, he didn't take kind to authority, and he was like a rolling stone, except he didn't make a lot of kids everywhere. He just liked to be outside. And he would travel from city to city, a hobo of such. And he would go excuse me, to these cities, and he would do these loose end jobs and then move on. And so when he was 19, he kind of ran out of resources, and he was just riding a train, and on the train he met two little white ladies, and they were so nice to him. They offered him food, and of course he asked them if they knew where work was, and he was looking for work. He was looking for, shelter for a couple of days, and he was looking for food. And the lady's like, oh yeah, absolutely, like, when we get off, you get off at our stop and we'll point you in the direction you need to go. Okay, so that's what he did. He got off at their stop, and they ended up taking him to like an open field. And my grandfather said he remembered a hooded man come out. He said he didn't see his face, but the man offered him $500. And my grandfather said, okay, what work do you need me to do? Because he always believed in, working for whatever it is that was given to him. And the man said, in return, I want your firstborn child. And my grandfather laughed it off because at 19, he had no plans on having kids. So he felt like this was a lick. I'm going to take this $500 and run, and this man ain't going to never see me again, or these two little white old ladies. And so he agreed, and they parted ways. So later down the line, my grandfather met my grandmother, and they settled in Alabama. And soon after, my grandmother got pregnant with with my aunt, which is the oldest sibling out of 6 kids. And my grandmother gave birth to her, and when my aunt was about 2 weeks old, they got a knock at her door. My grandfather opened the door, and it was a man in a suit, and he was like, hello, how can I help you? The man said, I'm here for your firstborn child. My grandfather said, what? And slammed the door. He's like, what the hell? My grandmother asked him, who was that? And he said, they were at the wrong door. Okay? So the next child to be born was my aunt. And a few weeks after she was born, there was a knock at the door. And it was a man in a suit. My grandfather answered the door, and he said, I'm here to collect your firstborn child. So my grandfather said he got curious. I want to know what you go do with my child. So he handed over my aunt, and the man looked at her and said, there's something wrong. I don't want this one. He gave my aunt back, and he left. And my grandfather, it tickled him because wasn't nothing wrong with her, which later down the line, she was born with some mental issues going on. And how that man knew that, we don't know. So then my mom was born. And this time, the man didn't come when my mom was first born. He waited He waited. And when she got about 4 or 5 years old, there was a knock at the door. My grandfather opened the door, and the man in the suit said, "I'm here to collect your firstborn." He brought my mom to him. He wrote a symbol of such on her head, and he left. A week later, my mother fell terribly ill. Like, nobody knew what was wrong with my mother. She wouldn't eat. She wouldn't sleep. She couldn't use the bathroom. My grandmother was so worried. They didn't know what to do. So they requested help from the church. My grandmother was heavily devoted in her church. So the church came out, and for 7 days and 7 nights, they prayed over my mother with the white sheet. And they prayed and they prayed and they prayed, and they light white candles. And the 7th day, they were praying. And my uncle was sitting on the stairs, and he said that my mother sat up on the couch. That's where she was laying. And she went to throw up. And when she threw up, a snake came out her mouth and slithered at the front door. Right out the front door. After that, my mother was better. But 2 weeks later, her pastor died. And so my grandmother went and tried to give her condolences to the church family. And his wife said, "Don't ever come back here. My husband sacrificed his life to save your child's soul." Crazy, right? Have a good day.
Story time on how I met a parasitic entity, or a demon maybe. I don't know what the fuck it was. Okay, so I deliver groceries from time to time. And I typically stay with one store, but I ended up accepting an order from a different store that I don't usually go to. Recommended by my partner. So to fast forward, pretty much, when I got in the store, it was only 10 items that I had to get. But it took me 30 minutes. It was 3 items out of stock. 5 fucking items I couldn't even find, but I had to scout through the store and ask employees for it. And the Wi-Fi kept going out. So it was nothing but resistance. It was something telling me, just, no, don't do this. But me being me and me thinking, I'm like, I just spent 30 minutes in this bitch. I'm getting my fucking money's worth. I wasted a lot of time. I'm gonna continue. So to fast forward again, pretty much when I'm done with it, we go to the lady and we pull up, and we automatically, I knew that he felt what I felt, because I looked at him and I'm like, what the fuck? It felt eerie. I automatically felt something weird, like my heart dropped. Whenever my heart dropped randomly, and I don't know why it dropped, it's like a different type of energy around me. Yeah. So when we pull up on the garage, it was a circle, like a chalk drew on circle on the garage, and we was just like, huh? In the instructions, it said ring the doorbell. So I had to get out the car, and I walked up to the doorbell, and it was a circle around the doorbell. It was a circle saying the doorbell might be sticky, so be careful. I touched that motherfucker with my knuckle, and not even my skin knuckle. I put my sleeve over my knuckle and touched the fucking doorbell, my bad. So the lady didn't even see me. She didn't even see that I noticed that she got up and damn near floated to the fucking door. The lady was an older lady with a hunch in her back, and she had red hair, and she didn't know that I seen that she moved, as if she didn't need any type of assistance after I rung the doorbell. It's kind of like she was in the window waiting and watching, and she seen me. And when she waited for me to ring the doorbell, mind you, I stood there for 2 minutes, do I want to touch this doorbell? Because something was something off. The whole time she sat there and waited until I touched the doorbell. So when I rung the doorbell, she opened the garage. My partner looked at me and pointed to the garage, she at the garage. And his eyes was kind of so you know how it is when people doors is farther back in their garage. She basically asked me, could you come in and help me? I have a problem with helping elders. I had a problem with helping that bitch, but I still did it. So I brought her groceries in. It was 2 bags that I had. I had brought the bags in, and I set it on the table for her. And she was like, oh, could you do something else for me? I'm feeling an impending doom, and I don't even know why I'm feeling it, but I'm moving fast. And I'm like, okay, what would you like for me to do? Asked me to take the fucking apple juices, my apple juices that got that plastic around it. She asked me to take those out. I took that shit out within 5 seconds. But within those 5 seconds, she was scanning me. It was oh, You're a very beautiful one. You have very beautiful skin. What are you, about 28, 5'5"? I was 28, and I'm literally 5'5". So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Mind you, she walking with a cane, right? She walking with one of those, like, wheeler canes, wheeler chairs, whatever the fuck. Whatever. But I seen the bitch get up and float to the door without no assistance. So it was kind of like, I'm like, this is an act. Some off. So while I'm popping it out, I'm like, okay, so thank you, I gotta go. She was like, oh, I have something for you. Just 1 minute. I was like, no, ma'am, I have to go. I have other people to go to, ma'am. Thank you, but no, thank you. She literally was like, I have some oil from the church here, right here. I have some oil from the church, and I just wanted to see if, if it works well for you. I wanted to gift you some. I wanted you to put some on your skin. I was like, no, ma'am, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but no, thank you. I'm okay. I'm bagging the fuck out. Like, bitch, I'm finna go. So it was then in that moment when I started to pay attention rapidly, because all of this happened within under a minute. Like, I wasn't playing. Her hands, you see my hand, right? Her hand was 2 times that fucking size. 2 times that size. That's how I knew this is not no fucking human. And how she just scanned me, and how she just like, and getting closer as she's scanning me, I'm like, this not no human. I gotta go. And again, I'm like, okay, thank you, ma'am. I gotta go. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You have a beautiful, blessed day. She literally stood at the door and was like, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You are so beautiful. You are such an angel. No blink. I got in the motherfucking car and I looked at him. And it's kind of like he automatically knew before I even shared the story, and I put a fucking thumbs down quick. Mind you, I'm like, I don't even go to that store no more because of the bitch. Do you know that when I accepted an order from the store that I originally go to, months later, that I met up with the same entity. This time around, she was not feeble. This time around, she didn't even look as old. Her skin wasn't as wrinkly. This time around, she had what you call it? She was accompanied by another nigga. Another thing, another it. I was by myself this time. The man had opened the door and literally was smiling like the whole time. He kind of like guided me in, like, come on in. And I'm like, okay, so you're not gonna, like, what if I just wanted to leave this shit by the door? But I already knew they was trying to get me up in the house to leave the groceries, because she's like, oh, can you come in and put the groceries on the table? I go in and do the same thing, and she was like, oh, hi. So she knew who I was, and I knew who she was, but I didn't make it seem like I knew who the fuck she was, because I'm like, nah, I'm finna get the fuck up out of here. The same thing where she offered me something, but this time she offered me some organic cotton towel. She said, oh, I got this from the church. Do you need some? Do you want some? And I said, no, ma'am, thank you. I appreciate you. I have to go. I have other people to go to. I appreciate you. God bless you. They both was like, thank you. We appreciate you. And they was waving like this. I put a thumbs down on that one too. And I literally stopped doing deliveries for a while again.
The most terrifying and unexplainable thing that I've ever experienced happened to me a few years ago. And you're going to think I'm insane after you hear what I'm about to tell you. And I've only told a handful of people this since it happened. But I was visited by what I can only describe as a poltergeist one night. The most paranormal and the darkest, scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And still to this day, I don't know what it was. And I pray that it never happens again. But if you want a scary story, here's what happened. I was about 25 years old at the time. I had just gotten a new girlfriend, and we moved in together. And this was the first time I had been in a family situation. She had 2 young kids. They were 5 and 8 years old at the time. And we were very excited to be starting this new life together. We moved into a single wide trailer out in the middle of nowhere. I'm from Kentucky, so we're in the middle of nowhere. We're in the woods, very remote, and we were happy. Life was good. We were starting this new life together, me and her and the kids, and everything was great. we thought. This was a 3-bedroom trailer. So there were 2 smaller bedrooms at the back side of the trailer, which were the kids' rooms. And there was a bigger bedroom on the far end of the trailer, which was our bedroom. And within a couple months of living there, some very strange things started happening. So one afternoon, about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, it was summer break. The kids were out of school and they had fallen asleep. Both of them had fallen asleep in their bedrooms. They were taking their afternoon summer nap like you do. And we saw this a good opportunity to go get us a nap in. So we went to the room, closed the door, and laid down and took a nap. About an hour into this nap, there was a knock on our bedroom door. I mean, a loud knock. This sounded like a grown man knocking on the door. And I rolled over and thought, well, obviously the kids have woken up. And Amber, my girlfriend at the time, she rolled over and said, see what they want. So I just yelled, what? And there it was again. A very serious, aggressive knock. I thought, what the heck is that all about? I got up and opened the bedroom door. No one's there. It's silent. Now this is broad daylight. The sun is shining outside. It's dead silence. I thought, what in the world? So I walked back to the kids' rooms. There they are laying there, both of them asleep. And this ran chills all the way throughout my body. So I went back to the bedroom. Amber's sitting up in the bed at this point. I said, you heard that knock, right? She was like, yeah, of course I did. Have no idea what it was. So, it freaked both of us out, but we chilled out and was like, well, I don't know what that was all about. But in just a few days, it would get much, much worse. Now, when I was a kid, I loved scary movies. I loved ghost hunting out in the dark at night with my cousins, looking through the woods, looking for scary things, getting freaked out. I loved paranormal things when I was a little kid. Like my whole life growing up, we would go and try to see something scary in the woods. But for me, it was always Casper, the friendly ghost. It was the idea of seeing some transparent apparition floating through the woods real fast. And oh, that's scary, and we would run away laughing. I could have never prepared myself for the darkness that I would feel when this happened to me. The almost demonic feeling that I got from this experience. I could have never prepared myself for what was coming. So it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black in the trailer. We're asleep in our bedroom. The kids are asleep in their room. And I am woken up by the most horrific screams you could ever imagine. And our daughter was 8 years old at the time. And it was Brianna's voice screaming at the top of her lungs directly outside of my bedroom door. Get it off of me. Help, help, help. I mean, screaming bloody murder. Help, get it off. And I jumped up. I'm in my underwear. And, it's only 15 foot from my bed to the bedroom door. And this screaming is directly outside of the door. And there is thrashing like she's fighting, like she's being kidnapped, like someone has come in the house. My first thought is someone is taking my daughter out of the house. I have cold chills all over my body right now. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. I jump up in my boxers, run and kick the door off the hinges. And as soon as that door opens, the sound is now out the back door. There was a back door on the kitchen. Our bedroom opened into the kitchen dining room area, and there was a back door there. As soon as this door, my bedroom door opened, her screams are outside the back door, which is closed and locked. And she is screaming, help, 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 get it off, get it off. And I run as fast as I can and kick the back door wide open. And it is dead silent in the backyard. Complete silence. Just darkness. No moon, just pitch black 3 a.m. darkness out the back door. I run to the kids' bedroom. I turned around as fast as I could and run back to their bedroom. And there's Brianna, just peacefully sleeping in her bed. I go to Dalton's bedroom. There he is, just peacefully asleep. I ran back to my bedroom, and Amber, my girlfriend at the time, was sitting up crying on the edge of the bed. She experienced the whole thing too. So I sat down, and it broke me down. I sat down on the edge of the bed with my head in my hands and started freaking out. What was that? What could that have possibly been? I didn't know what to think. I thought I was losing my mind, but the fact that she also experienced it, she heard the whole thing. And it was absolutely horrifying. Needless to say, I didn't get any sleep. She didn't get any sleep the rest of the night. I was hyperventilating. I was full-blown panic. I thought someone was kidnapping our child out of our house. And there was nothing. There was absolute silence. And I told her immediately, we have to leave. We have to leave this house. Something is very, very wrong. I had this overwhelming darkness come over me. Like the most negative thing I've ever felt in my life immediately when this happened. And following that, suddenly this house had this dark, heavy feeling all the way through it. And I knew we can't stay here. We have to leave this place. And we agreed in that moment that we have to find somewhere else to live. So we did. We moved. We found a nice little house for rent across the county, sitting right on the bank of the Kentucky River, and we got out of there. And the darkness never left that trailer. In between that experience and when we left, there was this darkness, this heavy weight hanging over that place up until we left. And we packed up all of our things and we moved. We had a grandfather clock at the time. An old, tall, antique, beautiful old grandfather clock that someone had given us, that we moved with us into this new house. We put this grandfather clock in the corner of the kitchen, and it didn't work, so the hands on the clock didn't move. Well, when we moved it in there, I set the hands to 3 o'clock, just because it was symmetrical and I liked the way it looked. Well, a couple weeks went by and I was standing at the stove in the new house now, and I glanced over at the clock, and the hands on this grandfather clock were bent outward, like someone had physically bent them forward. Now, the kids weren't big enough to reach up there to do this. Amber wouldn't have done that. Why would she have done that? And I didn't even tell anyone. I just bent them back and got a weird feeling about it. Well, some time passed, and we got pregnant. We had a daughter. And as time went on, our little girl started walking. And you know how babies are when they're just walking. They get around quick. I was sitting in the living room one afternoon, and Zaylee, my daughter, my baby at the time, had ran in the kitchen, and I heard the biggest crash. It sounded like the roof had fallen in on the kitchen, and I knew something bad happened. I jumped and ran in the kitchen, and my daughter, my little baby, was laying underneath of this grandfather clock. It had fallen over and crashed onto the ground. She was okay. She wasn't hurt. She was just kind of laying there, but it had fallen and shattered all around her and destroyed this clock. And I have a hard time not feeling like something had followed us. And it turns out, after talking to a couple people close to me, some family members who knew the folks who lived in the trailer before we did, I found out that someone had taken their life in the backyard of that trailer. A man whose son had passed away, and he ended his own life in the backyard of that trailer. And I've wondered ever since if maybe what I heard was just some remnants of some leftover darkness that was stained because of what happened there. Was that the sound of the moments before that were just stuck there? I don't know. I'll never know what it was, what those screams were. And I can't help but feel like something was stuck in that clock, you know. And I know that's far out for some people to imagine, but it was very real. Very, very real. Too real, in fact. And I'll spend the rest of my life hoping that I never have to experience anything like that ever again. And it still comes across my mind a lot, and hoping that whatever it was stayed there. So what was it? I know that I'm not just crazy because someone else experienced it with me. The kids never even knew it happened. And I would love to know if anyone else has ever experienced anything like this, or knows what it was. What did I experience? It changed a lot of things for me. It brought back this fear of the dark, like you have when you're a little kid. I don't sleep well a lot of times, and I think I will forever wonder, what was that? And needless to say, I don't watch scary movies anymore.